Question 1, and we are now looking at the Anita Gomez vignette. Question 1 here is, in failing to disclose their private bond allocations and the true source of their outperformance, which standard concerning investment performance representation are Coral Wealth managers most likely to have violated? So we'll get to reading, but we kind of know right off the bat here that performance representation is the main thing in focus here. So looking at our answers here, we've got independence and objectivity, performance presentation, and communication with clients. If you had no other information, you'd probably lean towards going with B right off the bat, but let's read until we get to the information we look for here. So Anita Gomez, CFA, is a leading portfolio manager at Sonata Investment Management, a prominent firm specializing in fixed income investments. With over a decade of experience in the industry and a strong reputation for her ethical standards, Anita has successfully managed portfolios for both institutional and high net worth clients. Recently, Anita's firm has been considering the acquisition of a smaller boutique asset management company, Coral Wealth, known for their heavy exposure to emerging market debt securities. As part of their due diligence process, Anita is responsible for conducting a comprehensive review of Coral Wealth's portfolio management strategies, practices, and performance records. During her review, Anita uncovers that Coral Wealth's emerging market portfolio has consistently outperformed its benchmark index. So looks like we're getting to where we want, and so we need to look at the true source of that outperformance. However, further analysis reveals that the firm's superior returns may be attributed to its portfolio managers frequently receiving private bond allocations from emerging market issuers, which are often sold at a premium after issuance due to high market demand. Coral Wealth's portfolio managers argue that their practice is common in the emerging market space and helps them provide higher returns for their clients. They also mention that their actions do not violate any local regulations. Anita's review also points out that Coral Wealth's managers have not been transparent about the private allocations to their clients, so they haven't been telling them about this, and it's likely a reason for outperforming in their client allocations, instead attributing the outperformance to highly proficient credit analysis and timing. So there are the two big things there. They're saying it's the attribution is due to timing and credit analysis, but Anita looks like she's uncovered that it's actually due to these allocations. So basically they're manipulating or lying. So A, standard 1, B, objectivity, independence and objectivity. There's nothing that would really indicate that there's a conflict of interest or anything that the portfolio managers are being given that would kind of, as far as benefits from these issuers, that would lead them to do this. So I think we can go ahead and cross that off. Standard 3D, performance presentation. This is probably going to be our answer. They're misrepresenting the attribution of the performance, which would go against performance presentation. And then communication with clients and prospective clients. This standard is more so related to the fair treatment of clients, not as specifically towards performance presentation. So we can cross off C, and we'll go with B. Question 2. Which standard most directly addresses the issue of Coral Wealth's managers accepting expensive gifts and invitations from bond issuers? And we've got the priority of transaction standard, independence and objectivity, and responsibilities of supervisors. So we left off here at timing, so we'll pick up reading here. We've just got 2 paragraphs left. Moreover, upon interviewing a number of portfolio managers at Coral Wealth, Anita learns that they are regularly courted by issuers with invitations to exclusive events and expensive gifts. Purportedly as a token of appreciation for their investment decisions, these relationships have never been disclosed to Coral Wealth's clients or to Sonata Investment Management during the merger talks. So this is obviously going to be a big no-no, accepting gifts that could kind of impair our independence and objectivity. And that's really what our answer is going to be. Priority of transactions, this is going to be more client related to make sure that the investment team isn't putting front-running firm transactions and stuff like that. So that's not relatable to this. Independence and objectivity, expensive gifts and exclusive events could definitely make them more likely to buy bonds from these issuers, which in turn makes the issuers money, even if it's not in the best interest of clients. So that's where that comes into play. And then for responsibility of supervisors, you could argue that it's under the supervisor's watch that this stuff is happening. But it's really going to be more directly related to this independence and objectivity. So we'll go with B. Question 3. If it is determined that Coral Wealth's portfolio managers have been using material non-public information in their decision-making process, which standard concerning the integrity of capital markets have they most likely violated? So we left off right here, so let's read this last paragraph. Sonata Investment Management prides itself on adhering strictly to the CFA Institute's Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct and expects the same from potential acquisitions. Anita is contemplating how to address these findings in her report to the senior management of Sonata, which would have a critical impact on the decision to proceed with the acquisition. So we can see there's nothing actually in the reading here about the material non-public information. So we really just need to answer this question based on what's given in the question. And this is going to be pretty straightforward. If we're using material non-public information, then we're obviously violating the standard on material non-public information. So we can pretty confidently go with answer A. Question 4. Anita's responsibility to report the findings of her due diligence review to Sonata's senior management without being influenced by potential personal or firm-related benefits from the acquisition exemplifies which of the following standards? So key here is going to be potential personal firm-related benefits from the acquisition. And to be clear, we're looking at this last paragraph here. We read it in the last question, but maybe we should just read it again to refresh. So the Sonata Investments prides itself on adhering strictly to CFA Institute's Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct and expects the same from potential acquisitions. And I think from the past few questions, we could kind of point to all these things they were doing that were not exemplifying that. Taking expensive gifts, incorrectly attributing outperformance, and they're not doing anything that doesn't violate local regulations, but it still seems a little sketchy. So all these things would kind of lead them to say that they're not adhering to the CFA code and standards and probably shouldn't be someone they acquire. So what standard are we looking at here to kind of make a decision for Anita? If she doesn't go forward with the report or give the full picture, that's going to reflect poorly on her and not really be a loyal thing to do for her firm, even if it's in her personal best interest to do so. So she has to do what's best for the firm. So that being said, looking at misrepresentation would be more so if she was going to flat out lie about in her report and say that she thought that the CFA Institute's Code and Standards was being followed by them and that it would be a good acquisition target. She's just really contemplating how to address the findings in her report. So whether it could be fluffed up or not. So I think we can go ahead and take off misrepresentation. B, loyalty, and this is going to be loyalty to the employer. This is having loyalty to the employer in this situation, even if it benefits her personally, having this firm acquired. She needs to objectively kind of lay out the facts and tell the firm everything she's found so that they can make the best decision. And that's going to be our answer here. And then lastly, knowledge of the law. If the firm's breaking the law, that could come into play, but we're more so focused on providing a objective truth on the info that Anita has found out. So we will stick with answer B.